The most thrilling, spine-tingling series ever.
From the pages of R.L. Stine's best-selling books,
And the screams go on forever and ever.
We now return to Goosebumps.
Good evening, Goosebumps fans, young and old, big and small, living dead and undead. Welcome back to the Goosebumps Crew Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Isaiah Vargas, and I'm joined by my good buddies, Bjorn Palanick and Nick Shaw. We are the Goosebumps Crew, and we're back to, what else? Talk some more Goosebumps. If this is your first time joining us here on the Goosebumps Crew Podcast, I want to sincerely welcome you all as always. If you are or have ever been a fan of the popular series of Goosebumps books or the monster franchise that they spawned, then I have a feeling this podcast is going to be right up your alley. Because as I always say, me, Bjorn, and Nick are some of the biggest Goosebumps nerds on the whole planet. We could talk about Goosebumps for hours. That's exactly due here on this podcast. Every week we have a brand new episode talking about everything Goosebumps. From the books, TV shows, movies, video games, merchandise, whatever it is, if it has Goosebumps in the name, we're going to talk about it so much that the word Goosebumps is not going to sound real anymore. So with all that said, if you end up liking today's episode, make sure you have a like and comment. If you're watching us on YouTube, make sure you subscribe to the Goosebumps Crew YouTube channel and hit the bell notification to get updates when new episodes go up every Wednesday. But if you're just dying to get new episodes before they go up on YouTube, you can catch the audio-only versions over on our audio platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, and iHeartRadio. Those go up every Tuesday, so the day before they go up on YouTube, so you can catch them over there. And of course, you can follow the Goosebumps Crew over on social media at Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and Facebook. You can also follow Bjorn and Nick at Goosebumps Fan and Sean, respectively, on their social medias and their YouTubes. All those links are in the description below, so check them out. Join the Goosebumps Crew today and become a crew member. We appreciate your support in advance. And ladies and gentlemen, the spookiest day of the year is here. Happy Halloween, Goosebumps fans. It is officially Halloween day, and I'm got to tell you, we are stoked here at the Goosebumps Crew Podcast. We have a perfect way to end off Goosetober here on the Goosebumps Crew Podcast. We've done Halloween interviews and episode topics all year, all month long, not all year long, kind of all year long, but all month long, Halloween specific topics. And we are saving the best for last. As you guys know, we talk a lot on the Goosebumps Crew Podcast about The Haunted Mask, both the book and more specifically the episode adaptations of both that book and its sequel. We've talked about it ad nauseum. You guys are probably sick of us hearing about it, but you're just going to have to deal with that for one more episode because we have something very special today. We have talked with 3 different cast members from the Haunted Mask episodes in their own individual episodes, but today we're bringing them all together for the very first times, or in 20 years or so. So please help us in welcoming back to the podcast Kathryn Long, Kathryn Short, and Amos Crawley. It's great to have all 3 of you here. How are you all doing today?
Great. Ed.
Thanks.
We're very happy to have all 3 of you back on. It's an absolute pleasure. And especially because, as I've said, we've done individual episodes with all 3 of these guests, and all of which have gone on to become some of our most popular episodes here in the podcast. Kathryn Long's, your especially, has become our most popular episode on YouTube. It has over 9,500 views right now. It's our most viewed episode on Spotify, and the reach got so far that even R.L. Stine himself shared it on social media. So he even watched it himself. That was a surprise of a day, but he did see that episode, which we were very happy about. So, of course, we got to end off Goosetober by bringing all 3 of you together again for a big Haunted Mask reunion, because it's been nearly 30 years since that episode first premiered on Fox in October of 1995. And we wanted to see if you guys, would click the same way you guys did on set back in 1995. So it's very very happy to have you all back here today. And
Thanks for having us. It's a pleasure, man. Like, honestly, it's really nice to see both of your faces, all of your faces today. So thanks for having us.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. We're very happy to have you all. And this time around, so of course, we've already done individual interviews. So we decided to once again turn to the fans to ask their questions for the three of you today. So first off, I want to ask you three, because you all, of course, were child actors back around the time that Goosebumps came out. You did Goosebumps and other things. What was it like being child actors in Canada at that time?
Amos, you want to take this one?
Sure. Gosh, I don't know if you two would agree with this, but I don't know, because you don't really compare it to anything else. That's just kind of what life was, at least for me. It was not an unusual or different thing that much. It was a busy time. The Canadian dollar was really low, so there was a lot of American production happening. And,
That's true.
and there was a fairly small pool of actors, so the odds of your working, I work as an on-set coach now, and there are thousands upon thousands of child actors now, and I feel like there were about 24 when I was a kid. So, what was it like? It stunted our emotional growth, and we had a really good time.
Totally. Yes. No, I mean, I think that's a great summary. Don't forget, like, it was the 90s, right? Like, there was no checks and balances. There was very little oversight. I mean, there were handlers on set, but if like your parents were there, like, I started drinking coffee at 11, folks. Like, I was doing 12-hour days. Like, I was adulting pretty darn young. I mean, we all were for the most part. And I think Amos is right. Like, there was a smaller pool back then. We all saw the same people at auditions all the time. Now I feel like, there's a far larger market and demographic of kids trying to vie for the same spots. And like, back when we were younger, we'd see the same people all the time at casting calls and kind of get to know each other and know whose agent they were from and, whatnot. And also it was kind of a fun time. I don't know if you guys experienced this, but a lot of famous actors, Canadian child actors from that time went on to have pretty successful Hollywood careers. You've got the Ryan Gosling, Rachel McAdams, Ben Foster, a couple of those. We would kind of see them in circulation around at auditions. So we would all kind of, hi, how's it going? And, not knowing then, the success that different people are going to go on to and whatnot. But it was, I don't know, it was a great time, I think, for child actors, because it was a good platform to jump into bigger careers back then. I think it's the eye through the needle is a lot smaller now, I think. Mm-hmm. But yeah, definitely Canadian dollar for sure. Everyone was wanting to shoot films in Toronto and Vancouver back then. So
I'd even say too, different channels. Different channels are so available to people now to be able to show their talent on, where it just wasn't available back then. Mm-hmm. So yeah.
Yeah. We had like
Nickelodeon right now.
Nickelodeon and YTV, like Nickelodeon and YTV were like the big ones, and Disney Channel. So it was like, if you got a contract or a gig with them, it was like a huge deal. And they would want to keep reusing you too. They would keep hiring you for other shows. They would want to, reuse you for other shows. We all got hired from Are You Afraid of the Dark after we did Goosebumps and whatnot, or and vice versa. I think we were all on Are You Afraid of the Dark? I'm pretty sure all three of us were.
Not me. I was.
You didn't?
I was gonna say,
no.
Goosebumps though. You did two Goosebumps though.
Yes.
Yes, that's right. Okay.
You were making up.
I feel like. I honestly
feel they missed out. You should have done Are You Afraid of the Dark?
I know, right? I mean, what were they thinking? I feel like for me, I don't know if I immersed myself completely in it when I was a child, and that's probably why I'm not like doing it as an adult today. And so I was definitely like, I guess, a little less aggressive with going for that, like for those roles and auditioning for myself. I think I kind of phased out pretty quickly, to be perfectly honest. So, yeah.
Which I always found so interesting, because I always remember there was like the Trinity. I felt it was like you, Charlotte Sullivan, and Katerina Scorzoni, and you were like the Trinity that was super popular back then, playing all the hot girl roles. I was like, for sure, she's going to catapult to stardom. And then you disappeared off the face of the planet.
No, it wasn't for me.
She went on to bigger and better things, but it was just like, yeah, Kathryn was the hot thing. She was.
What is always funny too, just like, because you guys are talking about all the different actors that were circulating, and a lot of the ones you brought up were also on Goosebumps. Katerina Scorzone, Charlotte Sullivan, who we did have on the podcast in an earlier episode.
Tamara Hope was on it too.
Yeah.
There was a couple other ones.
Laura Vandervoort, and then of course you had, Hayden Christensen and Ryan Gosling, and those guys went on to do huge things. And even Amos, you were in movies like, you were in like movies like Billy Madison and stuff like that. So like, everybody sort of went to their own like area of acting, and some, went on to other things. It's just the way that show business is sometimes, some stay in it, some don't. And that's fine. But it's always interesting to see like who says like, I want to stay here. This is what I want to do. That sort of thing.
Well, Amos was the real TV star of our generation. He's the one that did all the work. Me and Kathryn, we did a bit, but like I think Amos did like all the circuits.
Yeah.
Oh, she's like, oh, stop.
Stop, please. Go, stop.
Oh, no, please. I can't take much more of it.
He's being very demure. He's being very,
I have to make up for the stupid mustache that I have, and so I have to be extra.
Well, we were saying before you guys hopped on that it looks like the mustache he has as his costume in the second one, with the gangster mustache.
But this one isn't fake.
Oh, it's true.
And no, it's not fake. It's real.
I
actually watched that right before this interview today. I was like, I need to get a little refresher on number 2. I can't remember exactly what happened. Yeah, I did.
The last time they interviewed me and they talked about number 2, I was like, I have no recollection of what happens in that. I had no memory of even filming it. I was like, sorry. Okay, whoa. Okay. Okay, that's not going to happen today. Okay, down. Sorry,
I remember thinking, like, I don't even remember being in it.
I had to go back and watch it because they were talking about certain scenes, and I was just like, I don't remember filming that. I need to go back and YouTube that.
Yeah. It felt kind of bad because we were like, uh-oh. We don't want to make anyone feel uncomfortable here.
And it's really funny because like that you say that like you thought that, Short was going to go on to do, all these really awesome things. And I literally like told her in that interview we did with her, I was like, I think if you guys would have continued on, you both, like it would have been to that stardom level, because honestly, like all 3 of you, like in the episodes, like that's why I think you're such beloved characters for the Goosebumps franchise, is because of how well you portrayed those characters. Mm-hmm. Like your acting in every episode that you did was phenomenal, even at a child's age. So
we had a good time together.
Yeah.
We had a really good time on set.
Definitely tell.
I feel like you and I, Kathryn, I feel like we tried to rewrite this script almost every single scene, but we're like, could we add this line? And they were like, no. It's like, well, what about this? Is this really realistic? Like, we don't talk like this as teenagers. Like, we need to say this. They were like, no.
Yeah.
Disney does not.
Well, when I was watching, so I watched them obviously all in succession. And when I came across The Haunted Mask 2, I could see a maturity that grew in all of our acting from 1 till 2. You can tell there was a difference. Like, I don't know if it was an age thing or just a general knowledge thing or an acting thing or whatever it was. You could tell that there was definitely development and growth from 1 to 2, for sure.
I think Long said it best in the interview we did with her. Yeah, I was going to say, I think Long said it best in the interview we did with her, because she's like, well, by the time we got to the second one, we were just like, oh, hey, what's going on? This just like
you were just walking on there like superstars.
You're the click now, so you guys got this.
I think by the second one, we knew that the first one had been successful, so we were like, hey, how's it going? Like, yeah.
Oh, it was.
I mean, not really, but at the same time.
It got insane ratings on Fox back when it first premiered. It was like, I don't remember the exact statistics, but it was like one of the highest rated programs on Fox in prime time. Like, that's like, for a kid show to go on prime time, it has to have like significance by the network. And then it would go on to sell a whole bunch of VHS tapes. Like it was a highest selling VHS tape of that year, I think. So it was popular, especially. So I would assume by the time he got to the second one, it was just kind of like look, we're stars now.
Like 8 million units or something. Like, it was heaps. It was crazy. Especially at the time.
I honestly don't even think I realized what was going on at that time. I did not compute that this was going to be what it was, like, at all. Even to the point now where I'm like, I don't know, guys, I'm a middle-aged woman just working her regular job. Like, you guys want to chat with me? Sure. But I always thought to myself too, Kathryn, I'm like, you must have absolutely loved filming the second version of this because you didn't have to get into that massive mask costume every single time. That was a big deal for you. Like, it was like hours of makeup.
Yeah, I think you would come in the morning and you'd be like, oh, my makeup and hair's done. I'd be like, I'd just like still be sitting there. The second one was better. I didn't have to do all that again, although it was really fun. It was just a lot, you know, when you're 12 and you're tired, and I cried a few times for sure. But I think I said that in my first one, like that's nothing by today's standards. You look at what they do with prosthetics for X-Men and other films, and those people are in prosthetics for 5 to 7 hours. It's like, are they filming during the day or are they spending the whole day in prosthetics? Like, I'm in prosthetics for 5 to 7 hours. I'm going to shoot for 3 and then get back out of prosthetics. Like, that's crazy how long some of the prosthetics take now and the innovations that have happened over the years. But I was pretty grateful.
If you go back to like the original, I'll never forget this story, but if you go back to the original Wolfman movie from 1940, now that was before computers or anything like that, and they had to do whole transformations of the werewolf, the actor would have to sit in the same spot on film while they like applied gradual layers of the makeup. So it would take hours on end to film like 5 seconds of footage, just because they're continuously putting makeup on them. So it's like, it can be grueling from what I've heard.
Dang, and then on top of it, it's like, okay, now act. It's like you're already so emotionally drained from all this. So anyways, I wanted to just say that I don't think I appreciated it at the time, Kathryn, but looking back at it now, I'm like, oh man, she had to.
It's okay. I had to be emotional angst the whole episode. I had like one persona, so it worked out fine. I could just behave traumatized the whole film. It was fine.
Translated well.
Fine. It translated perfectly for sure. But I mean, going back to what you guys originally said, I don't think, because there was no social media at the time. Had there been social media back then, imagine how much huger it would have been for us. Whereas there wasn't. I mean, prime time's not really even a thing now. You know, it's like there's just so many channels. People watch TV when they want to watch it and stream it. So back then you had to be home with your VHS ready to record something if you wanted to get the live aired episode of something. So yeah, you know, ratings and stuff were huge. And yeah, I don't think I realized how big it was until I started to get mauled at like shopping like places and stuff like that. That was a lot.
Yeah, they didn't have YouTube Shorts
witness
back
protection
then,
and go underground.
At least
at like 12, I was like, get me out of here.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, you three were going to the Haunted Mass too. I mean, you three were like the main trio while Steve was off doing his old man thing. You three were the ones that were like the main trio in that episode. But I wanted to ask really quick, between the two episodes, what would you three say was like the most memorable scenes to film?
I remember filming going through candy bags in a graveyard. I feel like that's one that for some reason sticks out.
Yeah, and that's where the line "I hate mints" comes from.
Yeah.
Well, I think the pumpkin patch scene, which was one of the first ones. Were you thinking of that?
Yes.
Because that's the scene where I feel like it's one of the first ones we filmed, and we were like really bonding, and then Tim was like joking with us, and we were all trying to get a sense of. And then I think that's when I realized, like, oh, she's cool. I can be her friend. We'll have a good time.
Yeah, I do remember that distinctly too, because it was the first day for sure. And it was just a really cool scene in general, just being in that one little pumpkin patch with all the pumpkins. It was sort of like you got all of your own willies out of the way. I don't know about you guys, but I was probably very nervous just coming to set on the first day. So it was just nice to sort of get there and get to know everyone and get that first scene over with, so then you can carry on and do the rest. But yeah.
And remember at the end of it, because we were so upset that they didn't finish the scene that we did, like left the pumpkins and didn't start what we didn't finish what we started. And so we added in that line, wait, you forgot your pumpkin.
You have a good memory.
No, because I remember that because you and I just literally stood there with Tim and we were like, no, we need to say this line. Can you imagine 2 12-year-olds standing there arguing with you like, we're going to add this in. It's going to happen. So, and then the producer said it was fine. And so it actually got kept in the show, which, yeah, was funny. Mm-hmm. All I remember about that day was us hanging out and yeah. And then I think I said this in my first interview, but when you came out wearing like the really cute outfit and they put me in the dorky clothes, I was like, I see where this is going. This is not going to. I was so jealous of her wardrobe the entire shoot. She'd always come to lunch and be like, you look so cute.
Yeah. And it's comfortable. So yeah.
It was not about it.
Yeah, I think it was also her costumes. Like you preferred like the cute cat costumes that she got over your duck. And
oh my gosh, she looked so stinking cute in that costume. And I was like, yeah. Anyways, let's not talk about it. Not going to talk about it. But one thing I do remember, not a scene, but actually Amos, I was going to mention this in my first interview, but Amos, so he's a bit of a film buff. And so I remember when we would all sit around at lunch and on breaks and stuff, and then Amos would talk about films and all this stuff that he knew. And I remember being young and being like, wow, he's so knowledgeable. Like, I don't know anything about all these films. And I remember talking to my mom. I was like, Mom, I need to know this much stuff. Otherwise, I'm not going to go anywhere. Like, I remember going home and like looking up all the things that he would talk about because he was such a film buff and he was very mature. And so he was like the film sommelier on set. He would always educate us about all these things. I remember you were the wise one of the group.
If it helps, I have not matured at all since.
Okay.
I stay in that same lane.
And I haven't seen a movie since I was 13.
You haven't seen the movies.
Not a single one.
That was it.
Well, I want to ask really quick, did you guys ever get scared on set? Was there ever any time where something was a little creepy or like a little spooky?
It's hard to say because there's so many cameras in your face that it's like it for me, I felt like it really does disassociate you from the script when there's like a bunch of staff standing around. But if there was any scary moments out of all of them, I would say probably the set for all the masks was probably the best part for me. That felt it was the scariest part.
Mm-hmm. Well, and
I wouldn't say that there was anything as scary as like, you know, Nicolas Cage in Longlegs or something. It wasn't like some surreal experience on set where you're walking in and you haven't seen the actor yet and it's all done very methodically. We didn't have any of that. It was like we were too tired. We just show up and just work. But yeah, the mask shop was pretty scary because the way they had lined them up, like it was a little creepy. And I would say maybe the graveyard scene for me because it was a real graveyard. So I was like, oh, yeah. It wasn't like a staged graveyard. It was a real graveyard at 3 a.m.
Where did
but again,
we
I was
shoot?
too tired. So where did we shoot?
Like we shoot?
It was like we like or something.
Or Stouffville, maybe?
Yeah, that. It was somewhere remote.
And Mississauga, I feel like was in a lot of the suburb scenes, maybe.
Yeah, I don't know. It was somewhere like that. Yeah, we were up somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
I know for sure that scene with the shop is up in Orangeville or something. It's up there.
The cemetery Mount Pleasant. I feel like I remember as a kid shooting in Mount Pleasant all the time. Like it was the cemetery that seemed to be used for everything.
It is a potential cemetery. Like it's large, right? So
yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think somebody found the actual shop.
Real cemetery.
Like I think it's an abandoned building, but they found
Canada's biggest Goosebumps fan. And she goes to all the set locations from The Haunted Mask. So if you go onto YouTube and just type in like Haunted Mask shooting location, she does like videos where she goes to all the different, but not just The Haunted Mask, like pretty much every iconic Goosebumps episode, she's been to like all the locations and she like tells you also like where it is and stuff. So
she did go to Casa Loma. She did check out Casa Loma.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah,
she did visit the shop, the novelty shop. But now somebody actually lives in there. So
they
it's
live
a
in
house now.
Yeah, it's actually like a house now.
Do you know what went on in here? I'd be saying if I went there.
It's kind of like people who live in like the Amityville house and stuff. I'm like, how can you live there?
Some people just
diehard fans.
Diehard fans. It probably is a diehard fan.
Yes.
Maybe it is. Maybe the whole house just is like a perfect recreation of the mask shop, and they're just like, I'm a big Goosebumps fan.
Oh, dude. Do you imagine?
That'd be
That
me
would
if
be
I
like
lived
wanting
there.
to live in a Wes
Not gonna lie.
Craven movie
I'd live there.
location or something.
Yeah,
Well,
or a nightmare.
They're going to hate it when we have to go there and say, hey, we're going to be shooting The Haunted Mask 3. We're going to need this again. So
We're gonna have to vacate in like 3 days. Here's some bags.
I don't know. I saw a lot of traction on the comment page about the Haunted Mask 3. I don't know. I
Oh,
think,
definitely. Yeah, a lot of.
did,
Funny
yeah.
enough, I didn't include it in my list of questions here, but a lot of people were asking about if you three would come back for a Haunted Mask 3, would you do it? Would you guys come back for a continuation? So the demand is there. It's there. You know, like it wasn't a fluke. It
Move
really
over David Schwimmer.
That's
Disney
right.
Plus show.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
just at the time of recording this episode, just yesterday, they unveiled the second season of the new Goosebumps show, and it's like so cool it's just cool that Goosebumps is still around on TV. You know,
Yeah, but they need to pivot and do Haunted Mask 3.
do Haunted Mask 3.
I
Nothing
don't know.
wrong.
joke
I don't
for
know if Gen
people
Alpha could
watching.
handle it and all of its epicness. I don't know. They'd
Yeah.
have to brace themselves.
Yeah, it would gross more than friggin' Oppenheimer or something.
it'd be a theatrical release and everything.
Maskenheimer.
Oh,
I
geez.
don't know. I would be too. I think I'd be a little rusty coming into this. Amos, you're still acting, and Kathryn, you're on stuff on stage all the time, so you guys would be positioned well for this. I feel like I would need to do a little bit of research and practice.
No, whatever. I've seen you. You'd be just fine. You would just step right back into it. It would be no problem. Plus, we would play best friends who like have kids, and then like we're mom best friends. So we could do episodes where we're like in sense and then stressing about what's going on with the
About our kids?
Like, not a Trader Joe's trying to go save them. It would be so great.
It would be great. See, we're making a script right now.
Because I mean, I understand Americana now, so like all the locations are already figured out in my mind of where we need to shoot all the middle-aged mom stuff, and then they could do the rest on their own. But that's as long as we get to do the fun mom scenes, that would be all that would matter.
I drove across the border a week ago to go to Trader Joe's, if it makes you feel.
Hey, yeah,
Already doing your research.
Trader
Yep.
Joe's is like, it really is great. I don't have one in my area, but yeah, no, I think it would be a fun shoot. It would always be like, you know, well, the odds of it ever happening are very low. It would have to be like some producer somewhere would have to decide like it's happening and just talk to Scholastic and make it happen. But they've done pretty well with the franchise. We talked about this the last time. Like they've done pretty well with it, but they've never carried over any of the original characters from the series. But I don't know if that's a thing they want to do. I think they just wanted to kind of reinvent it and make it their own and start from scratch. So
I think
it's up to them.
the closest we got was there was a 2008 book in the Horrorland series called The Scream of the Haunted Mask, and it did have Carly Beth and Sabrina as the main characters again. But I think that's the last time that those characters appeared in a book. And in the other thing we got was the Haunted Mask in the Goosebumps movie, though it was just the mask on a little child actor. So I guess you could assume that was Carly Beth right there in the movie, but it was never outright confirmed. But we need to bring these characters back. I mean, it's been forever since we've seen them on screen, so we need to do that by all
I'm
means.
sure
I really
Colin
do
would
like
do
the
it. I'm
idea
sure he'd be
of the
down.
Haunted Mask 3.
Mhm.
You
As long
never
as
know.
none of us sign buyouts this time. We know nobody signs buyouts. We all sign on for royalties. None of that anymore. That was my biggest mistake.
Yeah.
Yeah. Considering how big it got, could have been riding high.
That would be like if you did Harry Potter and signed a buyout. Like
ooh,
Oh, dude.
Yeah.
that would be a huge loss.
That'd
But
be awful.
million, probably
hindsight's a fee.
billions
So,
of dollars
fine.
probably lost on if you did that for Harry Potter. Oof.
God. They're doing a new Harry Potter TV series now. That's like just based on the books like the movies were. So like each season is like one book. So they're already remaking that.
Well, yeah, you got a whole new generation to reintroduce it to. So Harry Potter's old now. It's like 10, 15 years old, right?
Yeah.
Getting up there.
Yeah. Yeah, even that last movie was like 2011. It's like crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. But Harry Potter, I think, is coasting more off of merchandise where, Goosebumps continues to have new movies and shows and all that stuff. So I think Goosebumps is winning here. I think so. I choose to believe that.
In our book,
We're preaching to the choir here, so
There may be some bias, but it's okay.
Yeah, no.
God, that
See that out there is just for show. There's no bias.
how are we doing with the fan questions? What are some other interesting ones?
Well, another one we have is actually, have you kept up with any other cast members from the episodes?
You're looking at it.
Yeah.
Wow, really? So, not your brother, Kathryn, or anything like that?
No.
What's Steve doing?
I feel like Corey is like, last time I looked into it, he was in LA somewhere, still carrying on with his career. So no.
Oh, we got to do more reunions in the future.
Wasn't the actor who played Corey in Rent-A-Kid with you, Amos?
Yeah, he was. Cody,
right?
Was that his name?
Yeah.
Yeah, Corey Sevier, yeah.
Corey Sevier, yeah.
Corey, yes. Yes. I'm going to adamantly say yes.
Went through a whole range of emotions.
Well, I opened IMDb in another window.
Yeah.
No, that's very interesting. It's been you three being in contact. That's pretty interesting.
I found Kathryn. I think I found you. Or did you find me? I think I found you.
No. Can't remember. But yes, we found each other.
Yes.
Yeah, I feel like maybe I found you.
Yeah, I forget how it happened. But anyways, I remember like our conversation. It was just like a burst of like emojis, and we were just very excited. So
yeah. It's been a very long period of time. It was really nice to see, though, that you were back in dance, because I remember you would always talk about how important it was to you at that time, and I knew you were very involved in dance. So it's really nice to see you as an adult carrying that out and being successful in it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I got lucky with putting in the work and just ending up where I hoped to be. So you kind of always plan to end up somewhere on purpose, but you never know if it's really going to work out. But oddly enough, I wasn't really. It's funny because people have asked me this, like, oh, why did you stop doing film? And I didn't really stop doing film because I really wanted to ditch film entirely and go into dance. It's actually because, and this is something I don't think I've ever shared. But I have an actual thermal allergy. Like I have a condition called thermal dermographism, cold urticaria. So I actually break out into hives if I'm in the cold too long. And so I just realized that this condition was getting worse as I was getting older. Like by the time we shot Haunted Mask 2, I was going through, like, I think we shot that in the fall again, or close to like September, October. But when I would be on set and conditions would get really cold, I would break out into hives. And so if it gets bad enough, I would just break out on my whole face, which means you'd have to stop shooting. So I just realized, like, if I'm going to do movies like Cold Mountain, I'm not going to survive. So I realized I wasn't really versatile enough with this condition to be in film long term. It was going to limit me. So I actually started to pull myself back out of film because of that. And had I not had that condition, I probably would have stayed in film and not gone into dances full time. They were both equally passionate for me, but because I had that condition, it made sense to me. I'm a bit of a linear thinker. I just thought, well, in ballet, I'm going to be in a warm studio all the time. I'm going to be in a theater 24/7. So it makes sense for me physically to do this as my long-term thing and pursue that full tilt rather than go into film, because I can't always be signing a contract saying, well, I have to be in warm conditions 24/7 and you'll have to stop filming for me when I break into, it just didn't seem realistic as an actor with having that limitation. So kind of sad in a sense, but also I ended up where I was supposed to be. So it was fine. But I don't think many people probably knew that, but an odd reason for me to leave film at the end. But, yeah.
So where are you then located right now? Hopefully in a warm
somewhere
climate.
Warm, ironically.
Yeah.
I mean, I would probably love to live somewhere. I would probably love to live like in California or Arizona, but don't like the taxes and the politics as much. So we won't go into that. But I'm in Washington State. I mean, Vancouver is the most, like, it's the warmest place you can live in Canada. So I lived in Vancouver for almost all of my 20s. I moved to where there was the least amount of winter, which in Canada is Vancouver, and spent the most of my time there. I just couldn't do the winters on the East Coast anymore. If it gets below like 15 Celsius. Like if it gets below 60 Fahrenheit, I get into trouble. So for me, it's important to always live where I'm controlling my, total like hard left there. But yeah, so it was just like a random thing that, impacted my life choices. But ballet's great. I'm in the studio, warm and cozy all the time. So it works out.
It does.
Theater was a great second option. So.
I actually wanted another fan question we have, I guess pivoting away from Goosebumps for just a second. They actually wanted to ask about Amos and Kathryn, your guys' time on Are You Afraid of the Dark? Because you two got to be in 2 different episodes. Amos, yours is one of the most popular episodes of Are You Afraid of the Dark? And you were at the center of that one. So can you tell us a little bit about your time on those shows?
I was in the Ghastly Grinner episode that Ron Oliver directed and wrote, and I think it would have been in between the 2 Goosebumps. I could be wrong about that, but that would be my guess. But I remember we shot it in Montreal. We shot most of it in a comic book store. And I was like 13, 14 and hanging out in a comic book store while it was closed overnight, which was a pretty great perk. And what else do I remember about it? It was great. It was a lot of fun. Ron's great. And people still ask about it, which is kind of cool. It's kind of like doing this. It's these weird random things that happen to you when you're young, and then you end up being like a part of strangers' lives. Which is, I'm pretty grateful for. We listened to a lot of Nine Inch Nails while the camera wasn't rolling. Like that was kind of like, I remember we set the mood a lot by listening to Pretty Hate Machine on a little boombox. That's a big recollection for me.
Well, and I remember, I'm glad that you brought up Ron Oliver, because when we did our episode with him, he spoke very highly of that Are You Afraid of the Dark episode as a fan of like comic books and stuff like that, and how much of a treat that was to work on. And like I said, it's one of the most, when people think of Are You Afraid of the Dark, it's usually either Dead Man's Float with Kayak Erickson or it's Ghastly Grinner with you. So, I mean, it's just a testament to how scary the Ghastly Grinner is one of the
traumatizing as a kid. Absolutely traumatizing. That creeped me out. Nightmares for days, man.
And then, Kathryn, you were in The Tale of the Walking Shadow on Are You Afraid of the Dark? Do you have any recollection from that episode, or?
I do, yes. Same as Amos, we shot that in Montreal, which was super fun. That was probably one of my favorite like trips to shoot something. I really had a great time in Montreal. I think I was 15, and that's the first time I was in Montreal, and I got to do a lot of ballet while I was there too, which was great on that shoot. But I think it was Jay. What was his last name? It was my co-star in that one. Charmel, like I forget his last name. I'd have to look it up. But all I remember is that like that was his first kiss on the show, but like in real life too. So I felt so bad for him because there was a kiss in that episode. And it was not my first kiss with a boy. So I was fine with it, but he was freaking out on set. And I could tell like he was just losing his, proverbial shit. So it was really funny. So I felt bad for him though. It turned out fine. But that stood out to me the most in that episode was the whole build up to that. Like, oh, what day are we shooting that? Oh, and he was like stressing. So, and now he's actually gone on to like a pretty awesome career in LA. So he's doing great.
Oh,
another successful child actor. Did you find it? Baruchel. Yeah. I thought it was like a B. I wasn't sure. Yeah. Jay Baruchel. Yeah. He's a funny kid though. He was like very knowledgeable about film and really into knowing his directors. And so that was a fun shoot. But Montreal was great. Montreal is a great city to shoot in. And it was a fun episode. I did not like my wardrobe in that show either. It was really weird. I don't know why I get stuck with the crappy wardrobe. Sorry, folks. First world problems. But yeah, it was a fun shoot though.
Yeah, definitely. It was always said
didn't they make your outfit in that one like look more like a French artist or something?
Yeah, it sort of looked like a slam.
I don't know what they were doing, but it was a whole like bad Target shopping spree situation. I don't know what was going on. It was a hot mess. But I just remember the scene when they were doing the Macbeth, and then they put me in like this. It looked like it was like a bald cap, essentially. You just saw my face. Like, you know how Lady Macbeth's supposed to have her face? But I was like, dude, this is horrendous. It looked like a cone head, like in a velvet cap. Like, I tried to tell them this is not going to project well on screen. They just didn't care. I was like over it. Yeah. It was fine. It's fine.
That's awesome.
It just adds to our childhood trauma, right, Amos? Thanks for that.
Yep. Yeah. Well, and it was always said that Are You Afraid of the Dark was the Montreal show, and then Goosebumps was the Toronto show. So it was like those two shows took up those areas of Canada, which was always funny when we heard about it. Going back to Goosebumps, this is going to be a really quick one, but as Goosebumps fans, we're always keeping an eye on new merch. And recently, there's been a lot of new Haunted Mask merchandise that comes out. So, of course, at the start of the show, I showed this off. This is a latex book-accurate mask that just got released. I actually just got this in the mail like 2 days ago. So it looks just like the cover of the book. It's really, really well done, really well sculpted. Recently, a pop vinyl figure just came out of the Haunted Mask. Currently, the one that I was able to get my hands on. Bjorn has the regular one. This is the exclusive blacklight edition. So the colors are very vibrant and they pop. Pop vinyl. Haha. Then we had a graphic novel release of the book. This is a graphic novel adaptation of the original book. And it's really well done. We actually are...
That's an anime?
It's almost kind of like it, isn't it? It sort of has
it is, I think, meant to be like you from the episode, yeah.
But it's a really well done. I mean, look at this drawing right here. Like, it looks really good. We're actually
in Gremlins. It looks like Baby Yoda, but an angry.
It does, like more of a monstrous Yoda almost.
Angry baby.
It does actually.
Angry.
Angry baby.
It's really well done, and we're actually in talks to talk with the illustrator of this graphic novel, so we're very excited about that one. And then finally, we have, this was just released too. This is a backpack of the Haunted Mask, and it looks
like that one.
Mm-hmm. It's a
really Loungefly backpack.
Yeah, it's a really well done backpack. It looks like a Goosebumps book.
I'm looking for my kid.
And I don't know if you can see, but if you open it up, there's
like it would sell well in Japan.
Goosebumps G splats on the inside.
Ooh.
Like completely themed from the inside and out. So it's really nice. And it glows in the dark too. Marching. So
but there was an unreleased one that Bjorn and I have that we think is a little better, and I don't know why they didn't release it, but it's a pretty nice bag. Like, I don't buy Loungefly because they're like meant for like mostly women. They're
and
smaller.
Expensive.
And they're expensive, yeah.
Didn't stop me.
Yeah, but doesn't stop a true Goosebumps fan. So we all had to have a Haunted Mask one of some type.
Maybe that's why the mask doesn't fit over your head.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. So to go off of Goosebumps just for a minute. So did you guys, when you were younger, celebrate Halloween at all? Since this is a Halloween episode.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Any Halloween memories?
I mean, yeah.
Favorite
definitely
costume or Halloween memory that you guys have?
Definitely went out and did the whole trick-or-treating thing, but I was saying this to my friends the other day, like for some reason, I wasn't really allowed to dress up as like anything evil. So I was usually like something pretty benign, but my kid is all about Halloween. Our whole street is just like, it looks like Dollarama threw up all over our front lawns. Nice. There is, skeletons, bats, all the things on the front lawn right now. So, yes, I did do Halloween, but it was pretty like...
What's your kid going as, Kathryn?
Sorry?
It's going to be Tron Legacy.
Okay.
Ooh, of course.
Tron Legacy.
That's really cool. What about you, Amos? Yep. Did you celebrate Halloween?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I did the trick-or-treating thing and stuff. I seem to recall that I was adamant always about really traditional costumes. Like, I was like, vampire, werewolf, like, no newfangled. Pirate. No, and no, pirate.
Pirate.
Yeah.
Such a
So
renaissance.
one year, Kayla Savage and I, who was a neighbor and a friend of mine, we went as a bride and groom, but we were gender swapped. I wore my aunt's confirmation dress as a wedding
Wow.
dress, and Kayla put on like a suit and put fake facial hair on. And everyone asked if we were sisters, which was deeply
You have a photo?
Oh, is this the time that you had the long hair?
Yeah, photo or it didn't happen.
Okay.
Yeah, I can see that one.
I mean, there must be photographic evidence somewhere in a shoebox because it was
Right, in a
before you could
shoebox,
take
yeah.
a picture with a phone.
Yeah. Oh my God, this is really funny. Somebody comes up and just be like, "Are you two sisters?" And you're just like, "What?"
Yeah,
Huh?
I think I started like speaking with a really low voice to prove
It's like, yeah,
my 11-year-old hypermasculinity.
I love that. I love that so much. What about you, Kathryn?
Oh man. Yeah, we did Halloween growing up. I think the main thing when you're young is like doing Halloween at school, like going to school in your costume for like the whole like school parade and then, you know, worrying incessantly about what you're going to wear to school and if it's going to be cool enough and whatnot. But honestly, one of my favorite costumes was when I was in kindergarten and, I had like a steady boyfriend in kindergarten. That's another story for another episode. But, he was He-Man and I was She-Ra. And if you know anything about 80s, TV and comics and stuff, that was a big deal. And so we went matching as He-Man and She-Ra to kindergarten for Halloween. And there is photo evidence of that somewhere. But I thought that was like the coolest thing to ever happen to me. Because we were madly in love and we had matching costumes and it was the best day of my life. Yeah.
Where is this guy these days?
5-year-old life. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was fun. I mean, She-Ra and He-Man, that was some amazing stuff back then when cartoons were very primitive. I mean, you look at the video of Skeletor and he's like, It's like, it's such bad animation, but we were so into it.
It was so good though.
I loved that show so much as a kid. So that was probably one of my favorite costumes.
Really?
He-Man, you boob?
Another question. Best Halloween candy, in your opinion?
Candy corn.
Candy corn?
Thank you.
Really?
Oh, I don't understand the hate for candy corn. It drives
It's a
me
love-hate
crazy.
thing. Either you love it or you hate it.
Yeah, I don't hate it, but I don't like it.
I gotta say Mars bar.
Ooh.
Yes. Mars bars.
That nougat, it's so good.
I liked the little cubes of caramel. Like it's a real like 80s.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Those are good too.
And they'd stick in your teeth for days.
Yes.
Big cat.
I feel like Reese's Pieces is the most popular with kids. So like everyone wants the Reese's Pieces buttercups when you go, unless they have a peanut allergy. But that's the one kids are like, "Do you have any Reese's?" when you get to the door.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
We don't have those here, Reese's Pieces. It really sucks.
You don't have them in Australia?
No, we don't have them. It's like, yeah, I don't know. I mean, some stores I'm sure would import them, but like we don't have them in like the main supermarkets here.
Oh my
Sure.
gosh, dude! I'm sending Reese's in your next box. That's like
Oh, thank you. I appreciate
that's
it.
insane.
No, and I've always been partial to either Skittles or Twix. Like those are my favorites. So like you get like the little fun-sized Twix in your bag. Now, recently they've been doing Twix that are like ghoulish green in the middle. Yeah, they have like they color the cookie green, so you bite into it and it's like green with the caramel, and it's basically the same thing as a Twix, but
Still the
it's
same thing. It's still Twix.
Yeah,
How good is caramel? How good is it?
Caramel's so good.
I actually wanted to tell a really quick story about a Halloween costume of mine. I remember in 2019, I went as Spider-Man. So Spider-Man Far From Home came out very recently, and I had a costume that was like sort of like one of those skin tight ones, and it looked like the one from the movie. And I got some web shooters. It was cool, but we barely missed trick or treating because we went on a Disney cruise at the time, and they were doing a whole Halloween cruise. It was great, but one day they were doing a Marvel meet and greet, and I was like, I have a great idea. So I dressed up as Spider-Man, and I went to get a picture with Thor, I think. And when I was in line, I had a little hand like tap me behind, and I was like, I turned around, And the little kid was like, "Hey, Spider-Man, can I get a picture with you?" And the parents were like, "Yeah, can our son get a picture with you?" And I'm like, "Sure." So I like did the whole thing, and I'm like, "Oh, that was nice." But then I like had 15 parents coming up to me. So I don't know if they thought I was like a character actor or something, but I suddenly had my own line in this line to get pictures with me as Spider-Man. And eventually a Disney employee had to come up and be like, we appreciate what you're doing, but company policy says you can't do that. So I was like, all right. But I remember like a little kid, one little kid had like a little video camera or like camera, and it prints little pictures out, and they got a picture with it, and then they gave me the printout picture, and I still have it. I think it's in my closet, and I was like, oh, that's so nice.
Well, that must have meant you had a really good costume. It must have been a good costume.
It was. I tried to go as authentic as possible, so that's all I always do in my costumes. I went as Michael Myers one year, and I like bought an actual jumpsuit, and I like messed with it. I put like fake blood all over it. I cut holes in it, and I even like put some liquid latex on it to make it look like it was burnt, so like it was charcoal on the shoulder right here. And it was great. A lot of people were like looking at me funny on the street. They were like, "All right, let's go over."
You committed. You committed to the whole thing. I appreciate that.
Definitely. You got to be committed on Halloween.
That's true.
Definitely.
So I tell everybody, I was like, don't phone it in. It's Halloween.
Mm-hmm. What?
So, I have a Haunted Mask cosplay that I do, and then we have separate. I think Bjorn, you did R.L. Stein.
I did
from the intro Goosebumps show. So
with the briefcase, so he got like a whole
with the briefcase that and all that stuff that flew out. It was pretty cool.
It was hot, man, because it was in the middle of summer in Australia.
Oh yeah,
so I was dying, and I had to keep taking because I wore like a morph suit underneath because I wanted to do the whole like you can't see me at all, and then I was carrying Slappy around with me too, so that was like heavy. So I was dying, but I got so many different photos, and usually it was just like people saying like, I can't believe you did this costume. Like they expected me to dress up as like the Haunted Mask or Slappy himself or one of them, but they were like, you did this costume. I did not expect that. Yeah, no, it was a good time, definitely.
Mm-hmm. What would you guys say scares you? You know, we talk a lot about Halloween and scary stuff, but what would you guys say like scares you?
Processed food.
Social media.
The medical system.
No, social media.
Adult things.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
I don't think that my answer would be the same in 2000, or like
financial debt,
95 or whatever. Yeah.
Climate change.
Yeah. It's like what they say: you conquer your childhood fears, but you're overwhelmed with adult anxieties.
Yeah. Two-party political system. I mean, we could go deep here. I mean, there's a lot of things that scare us, I think.
Student loans, stuff like that.
Man, student loans.
The IRS. Oh my gosh. I mean, the list gets longer. I don't know. I don't have any fears per se.
I have an umbrella phobia. Like I don't like umbrellas. They make me really uncomfortable. It's
really?
Yeah.
That's so vulnerable to share.
Random thing that I don't like them.
Oh man.
I don't like walking barefoot on long grass.
Oh yeah, I don't like that either.
It creeps me out, like what could be in the grass, and it feels weird on my feet. It's like a sensory thing. I don't like it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no.
Or like laying down in open grass. I'm just thinking about what's crawling underneath me. It's gross.
Well, I don't mean
we're getting into it.
Lay on open grass.
Trypophobia.
I'm not a big fan of pigeons. Like
pigeons.
Any kind of bird that can come down and take your food or peck at you. Not a fan.
That's fair.
Between the three of us, we're never hanging out in Central Park on a rainy day. Like it's just never happening.
Oh my gosh, that'd be a nightmare waiting to happen.
Oh, you guys would hate it here. You would hate it here.
Yeah.
Barefoot in Central Park in the rain with croutons or something.
Croutons, yeah. An old man just sitting on the bench, just like
feeding the birds with an umbrella.
Yeah.
Pigeons are really nasty, like really dirty creatures, though. So I don't blame you.
They call them rats with wings.
They are rats with wings.
And they're aggressive.
Rats with wings. Yeah.
Yeah, essentially.
And then here in Australia, we're like, don't go into the forest because you might get bitten by a really dangerous spider that'll kill you in 2 seconds. Don't go swimming in the river because you might get eaten by a crocodile. And we're just like, no, well, okay. Can't do anything.
It's just a normal day.
As Canadians say, that's why we live where the air hurts our face, because that's when you know nothing's going to kill you. So
I was going to say yes. I was like, well, in your case, maybe that's not
somewhere in the middle. Somewhere in the middle. It's true though. In Australia, there's like 1,000 things that can kill you. I mean, I was in Australia once, and then they were like, "Yeah, you shouldn't be walking through there because there's scorpions." I was like, "Oh, I wasn't thinking about that. Did not have a frame of reference for that." So.
Just be like, can we like quarantine that whole spot then?
Tasmanian devils. Oh god, the sun is only just starting to like rise now too. So it's like I've just noticed.
What time is it there? You get up early for these things. You have to get up in the middle of the night.
Yeah, it's like 10 past 4. So like the sun has just slowly been rising. So like my lighting has just slowly been changing throughout this video. I'm like, I've just been noticing it slightly change. I'm like.
Well, since we are coming to the end of everything, I want to ask just sort of a last question for all three of you. What do you guys think? We always talk about the Haunted Mask. We called it objectively the best episode of the whole show. It's one of the best Goosebumps stories, period. What do you guys think makes that story so special? What would you guys say?
I think that as a parent and like objectively watching my children navigate emotional outbursts not always paired with emotional maturity, it's such a tough thing at a certain age, and I wonder if the story kind of resonates because by masking it, by hiding it, you get to release this thing that you don't quite understand in a safe or powerful way at a time in your life where you don't feel very powerful. Maybe I'm putting too much on it, but like, I don't know if it resonates, that might be why. And it seems to me in talking to kids, who really liked the show, or the genre in general, there's a lot of sensitive souls, that seem to gravitate towards it as a benchmark memory. And I wonder if that has something to do with it. Or maybe my kids are just weird.
I can agree with that. No, I can agree with all that. I mean, it could just be weird. I mean, we actually have a Facebook group that someone had joined recently, and they are doing a drag parody of the Haunted Mask. Something I never thought I'd see in my life, but I was like,
borrow my Halloween costume from when I was a bride.
Maybe.
The photo's already out there somewhere. They're taking inspiration here.
Exactly.
Wait, did you say a drag parody of the Haunted Mask?
Indeed.
I did, yes.
Your ears do
you
not.
You know what? They'll probably have better wardrobe than me.
100%. Maybe. Who knows?
Now, it is Halloween season. What movie do you three go to during the Halloween season?
Nightmare Before
You
Christmas.
have a
Nightmare.
it's a good one. I love that one.
Yes. Yeah. Because it's sort of split in between. So you get like Christmas and then you also get Halloween. So
yeah.
I would say if there's one, I'd have to pick Beetlejuice. I know it's not like a Halloween movie, but it's still like the epic one from my childhood.
Counts.
Kind of blew my mind. So.
It does count.
It was a good one.
I haven't seen the second one yet.
Hills have eyes.
Good things.
The Hills have eyes.
The Hills have eyes. Dang, bro.
That's a good one too. Yep. Like I said,
that's so crazy. I just watched the 2006 remake last night. The 2006.
I've never seen the remake, but
the one with it's got Ted Levine from Silence of the Lambs, who plays Buffalo Bill, and he plays like a family like dad in it. I'm like, this is just weird.
What a contrast.
Because all I hear is Buffalo Bill when he speaks. I'm like, God damn, this is weird. It's not bad, the remake. It's definitely just more gory and obviously it's more modern, but it wasn't too bad. I didn't mind the remake.
My very last question for you guys before we end off the night. we've been talking about how the Goosebumps fans, resonate with this episode and all that stuff. What do you three have to say to the whole Goosebumps fan base about, their enjoyment of this episode? Like, what do you guys think of that long-lasting appeal?
Yeah, I would just say thanks for being diehard fans. I mean, it's a big thing to stick with a franchise for over 20 years and to be still really super connected to it. Yeah, it's an era of television that we'll never get back. So it's nice that people still appreciate it and connect with it and still find relevance in it. I think what Amos said, there is a depth to that episode, especially with it being the first one, but having a character. And by the way, how dare you trivialize Carly Beth's preteen angst? Like, she was going through it. Okay. And that resonated with a lot of people in our generation because nobody really talked about stuff like that back then. There weren't Me Too movements and bullying campaigns. It was just like survive school, kids, and maybe get therapy when you're 25. That wasn't a thing back then. So for them to have shows like that as potentially an outlet where they could relate to characters that were going through stuff and then be able to process that on their own in their bedroom at night or whatnot. I think that still relates to a lot of people our age now, that had shows like that to help them through stuff. Like people had Mr. Rogers or other shows to help them get through stuff without realizing that was sort of therapy. I don't think we realized that the show had that impact, but I'm glad that people connect with it and see that show. I think I've seen comments from people like fans, like that show helped me get through this in my childhood or helped me relate to X. And I think that's a beautiful thing because we didn't have the resources as much back then to help us deal with our crap. So, yeah, I think it's a great thing. So thanks for sticking with us.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like I said, it's been awesome to just kind of grow up with these books and the TV show and whatever came our way with the Goosebumps series. It was always kind of there for hundreds of thousands of kids back then and now. And as we've talked about before, generations of kids now are getting reintroduced to these stories, and your guys' performances in those episodes will be immortal forever. Forever. So
Mask is the most iconic Goosebumps episode. Like, there's literally videos online where people just say, can we just all agree that this is the best episode? And that's generally what they'll say, like at the end of like a whole episode 74 ranking or something. So yeah, it's definitely forever going to be immortal.
But that episode is iconic for a reason, and it's because of you three. So you guys are the ones that made that what it is. So we have you to thank for that one.
The anchor to it.
And always in one. But that is going to do it for tonight's episode of the Goosebumps Crew podcast. We want to thank, obviously, our three guests, Kathryn Long, Kathryn Short, and Amos Crawley, for joining us once again. We're very happy to have you back.
Yeah,
and
as
I always say, we'd be happy to have you on again. So thank you guys so much.
Thanks. Thank you, and happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween.
Yeah, happy Halloween, guys.
And make sure you guys, as always, follow Bjorn and Nick at Goosebumps Sauce Fan and Sean, respectively. If you like today's episode, make sure you subscribe to the Goosebumps Crew podcast. Follow us on our audio platforms and social medias. All those links are in the description below. Thank you guys for tuning into Goosetober. It was so much fun to do this all out through October with you guys. So thank you guys so much. We'll be back with another new episode next week. But until then, this has been the Goosebumps Crew. And from all of us here, we want to wish you, as always, to take care, stay safe, have a scary day, and have a very happy Halloween.